All right, good morning, everyone. I want to thank you for being here in the village of Tijeras, Los Vecinos Community Center. I want to take some time today, this morning, to talk about what happened on Saturday with the really extreme rainfall event that we had here in the East Mountains and the unprecedented flooding that we had, which really impacted the creek right behind us, but impacts all across our community, across the East Mountains. The first and most important thing to remember about what happened this weekend is that no one was hurt. No one was injured, no one was killed. And I think that's a really important thing to recognize, because as we're seeing in these extreme weather events all across the country, across the state, the loss of life is no insignificant part of these events. And so we're very grateful to all of the first responders, everybody that was involved, that everyone was kept safe. And that's important to note. So we have several experts here behind us that are going to really go into more depth on the details of the storm and the impacts of the storm, what happened. But the bottom line is the National Weather Service is calling this a 200 to 500 year flood event, right? That means this is something that by historical probabilities only happens once every 500 years, perhaps. So to put that in perspective, we've got some maps here that show the rainfall totals, but there's some areas that saw up to 3 inches of rain and hail in 30 minutes or less. And that's just an incredible amount of rainfall in an area that's been very dry this season, right? We had almost no snow this winter. And so while we think this type of rainfall event is very rare, I think it's important to note that this is an event that is increasingly likely in the face of a changing climate. And we are dealing with those climate impacts right here in the East Mountains, right here in our community. And we have to step up and confront those impacts and fight climate change at the same time. So again, I'm very grateful that there wasn't more damage, but important to note, here along the county portion of the Tijeras Creek, which is right behind us, of course, we didn't see a lot of damage, but there was some major damage to the bridge, which is right here. And it's been, unfortunately, we've had to close the bridge off for the safety of our residents and our students over here. And of course, we know that further downstream, there was significant impacts to some folks' property in Carnwell. The city of Albuquerque saw some impacts. And also upstream, right, in the village of Tijeras, they actually saw the brunt of the storm and the brunt of the impacts. We had the mayor, the village, several city councilors, their staff out, clearing culverts, clearing the drainage, and really important to recognize them and the way that all of our public servants stepped up at the county and in the village. So again, I think we're very lucky that we came through this in the shape that we did. And I think that's largely in part because of the fact that since December, Bernalillo County has been working to actually restore the watershed here behind us in the Tijeras Creek. And so the project that we've been working on has been to partially restore the natural flows, the historic condition of the creek, but also to better manage the storm flows, right? Because we are seeing these increasingly extreme events, and we know that our infrastructure has to be ready to meet those, to protect life and property while allowing the community to develop. So we have one of the project's chief experts here who can explain more. But even though the project wasn't totally complete, we believe that it did its job. This actually helped protect the community and prevent a much greater storm surge and much more property damage and potentially even lives lost or significantly impacted. So the volume of water we saw here was, again, it was totally unprecedented, but I think we have to recognize the fact that this is going to become increasingly common, and we have to prepare ourselves to meet the moment of now, which is our changing world and our changing climate. And so that's why this project is so important behind us here, because for centuries, this creek has protected the land and the communities that have existed in this area. And so we have to step up and make sure that we allow our infrastructure to meet the changing times. And so here to talk a little bit more about the project and the impact that the project had on the flooding and vice versa, the flooding had on the project, we have our stormwater compliance lead, Collie Bronson, who's going to say a few words about the project. Thanks, Collie.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you all. As Commissioner Olivas said, my name is Collie Bronson. I'm the Stormwater Compliance Program Lead for Bernalillo County. I want to tell you a little bit about the Tijeras Creek Watershed Restoration Project. which is right behind us over here, and some of the goals and the impacts from the storm event that occurred this last weekend. The purpose, and you can see over here to my left, this is the engineer's design for this project. The purpose was to restore the natural drainage to this creek. It currently in many areas is what we call incised, which means it's become deeper and narrower, which increases flood velocities or how fast that water runs down the creek. So our goal is to remove that incision, to remove the depth and the narrowness, and to get that water to spread out. That helps slow it down. That will help water infiltrate. And that means seep into the ground. And that's what we want. We want to slow it down. We want to get it into the ground rather than have kind of a fire hose shooting down the arroyo. So the goal of this project is to restore those natural flows. So we've removed that incision. The construction wasn't complete, but we've removed that incision. We've worked on spreading those flows out, and that really did help during the storm event that we saw this last Saturday. The features that we've installed are there. They help to reduce erosion. This past fall, we removed a bunch of invasive plant species like Siberian elms, plants we don't want there. And we hadn't quite gotten there because the storm hit before we were ready, but we're working to restore native and natural plants in the area, and that will improve on-site and downstream both the water quality and the habitat for our wildlife. Our project, we were about 80 to 90% complete when the floodwaters from this weekend's storm inundated the site. The National Weather Service, as Commissioner Oliva said, they're still analyzing the data and getting more, but right now the provisional data is showing that it's what we call a 200 to 500 year rain event with 2.5 to 3 inches falling within a half an hour of rain and hail. That does not mean necessarily that kind of event only occurs every 200 years or every 500 years. What it does mean is that, for example, a 200-year storm event, that in any given year, there's about a 0.5 or 0.5% chance that we will get a storm of that magnitude. The same for a 500-year event. In that case, it would be a 0.2% chance that we would see a storm of that magnitude. Climate scientists are now indicating that with our changing climate, there's an increased chance that we are going to see more high-intensity storms like the one we saw on Saturday. Saturday's storm dropped most of its water north of the project area, and the rainwater from this event drained down the Arroyo San Antonio and the Tijeras Creek. You can see on the chart here to the right where the rain occurred. You can see the arroyos that contributed to the water upstream of our site to the Tijeras Arroyo. So by the time it made it to the Tijeras Arroyo, we had all that combined water in one arroyo shooting down towards our project and towards this bridge. And just east of here, where those floodwaters came, they pick up debris and move all that material as they come down. We still have a lot of incision, deep, narrow creek down east of our site. And so it comes out really fast, and then it hit our site and it hit the bridge. You can see from that debris and the plants that are laid down, that high water mark, it shows you just how high that water got at the height of it. The United States Geological Service has gauges that they measure stream flow. They have one in the Tijeras that's in Carnuel, so a couple miles downstream from here. And in that gauge, and you can see the graphic right here, in that gauge, they showed that the Tijeras Arroyo, the waters in there rose over 9 feet within a 15-minute period. That's a lot of water coming really fast. So this is a pretty unprecedented high magnitude event. So the National Weather Service and the U.S. Geological Survey are still collecting and analyzing the data, and they're determining what size flood event this is. Right now we know the rainfall event, which we've talked about, the 200 to 500 year, and we should have more information once they've analyzed that data soon. And although our project, we were still under construction and it wasn't complete, we did see that the restoration work that we have done installed, they generally functioned exactly the way we were hoping they would. And they helped reduce velocity and help dissipate the energy, slow down the water from that flood through that area. Now we are working with our engineers on this project to assess the extent that this flood impacted our project and to help us determine what we need to do next, what we need to repair, and what worked well and we can leave it as is. Although we're still in construction, the restoration work helped direct the floodwaters away from people, away from properties, and help to protect, which is the goal of this project. Given the magnitude of the storm event, we're happy to see that the impacts have been relatively minimal. The biggest impact, I think, is to this bridge, which we will talk about more in a few minutes. Thank you for your time, and I will be able to answer questions after this. Thanks. Commissioner.
Thank you so much, Kali, for giving us the details on what happened and how this project is supposed to function. I think it's important right now to just recognize our public works professionals, the public servants on the ground that actually do this work every day and do the cleanup work as well. After I spoke to the county manager, as soon as I learned about this storm, we had our emergency management team and all the folks behind me and so many that aren't here today spring into action and step up, ready to help. And as I said earlier, the village of Tijeras, incredible gratitude to them as well for stepping up. Literally, we had the volunteer city council members out clearing debris from the arroyo, from the culverts, and they're continuing to do that. So really important to recognize them. And I want to recognize Mayor Bruton from the village, who's been really involved in this and really faced the brunt of the impact here. So I'm glad the team was able to get as much done as they already have just since Saturday. And I think that this could look very different, obviously, without the people that back us up here. And so, as I mentioned earlier, the only real major damage that we sustained here at Bernalillo County was to the bridge behind me. And I would encourage you to get as close as possible to get a closer look at what happened. But please be safe. The bridge is closed for the safety of the public. And so we know that this closure is going to make it really difficult for the community, because right here you have this really unique space where we have Montoya, Roosevelt Middle School, and Los Vecinos Community Center, all integrally connected. And so this bridge is that link between them. And so I want to invite our Public Works Technical Services Director, Brian Lopez, to talk a little bit about what it's going to take to fix this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. I'm Brian Lopez. I'm the Public Works Technical Services Director for Bernalillo County. As many of you have already seen or can see, the flood did a number on this bridge. And since you can see the damage for yourself, I'm not going to spend a lot of time speaking about it, but I will speak about the rebuilding of the bridge. What I can tell you that unfortunately it is going to be a timely process. Our biggest obstacle in getting this bridge reconstructed is that our wait times for the construction materials needed are quite long. Most manufacturers are estimating wait times of about a year. Simply put, we cannot start rebuilding this bridge until we can acquire those materials. We have developed a comprehensive post-flood recovery and response plan that outlines immediate actions, damage evaluation, coordination with the contractor, redesign and scope development and implementation strategy, and then finally, final reporting and documentation. We are also evaluating improvements to the previous design to make the new structure more resilient and safer, helping to reduce the risk of damage in future storm events of this magnitude. As part of the redesign, we're evaluating potential improvements such as revised abutment locations and the inclusion of a concrete deck to enhance structural stability and provide a safer slip-resistant surface for pedestrians. Once we can complete the evaluations and procure the needed materials, we'll have our teams out here as quick as possible to begin the construction process. Right now, we're hoping that will begin in the spring of 26. At this time, we do not have a confirmed start date for the demolition process, but we want to assure the community that it remains a top priority and that we are moving forward as quickly as possible. We know how important the bridge is to the community of Tijeras, and our team is working diligently to evaluate the damage, develop a resilient design, and move efficiently through the procurement and construction process to assure a safe and timely rebuild. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director. Really appreciate you and your team being here and providing that technical expertise on how we get that fixed as soon as possible. And I know that I'll be there. The commission will be behind you. The county manager, we're all wanting to get this fixed as soon as possible. So lastly, I was speaking about already the important connection between our schools behind us and Los Vecinos and the important resource that this is. We just saw a busload of kids that was taken off on a field trip for the day. This is really an incredible facility and an amazing link. And so we're working hard to maintain that connection and make sure that our students and children in the community are safe. So I want to invite up our Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Director, Andre Dixon, to tell us about how we're going to try to keep business as usual here.
Thank you, Chair Olivas. Good morning. My name is Andre Dixon. I'm the Director for Bernalillo County Parks, Recreation, and Open Space. Firstly, I just want to say that Los Vecinos Community Center will remain open for business. We're still offering the same programs that we have prior to this event. Behind you, we're nearing completion on a construction project, and we're hoping to have that completed by early fall. The bad news is the damage to the bridge. It's going to make it a little bit harder for our kids to access the school and vice versa. We know that a lot of parents use Los Vecinos Community Center as a hub to be able to drop their kids off to access school and also a point to pick up their kids. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to have that access because of safety. There's also a good chance that crews will be back out here to fix the flood damage, as Brian said. We'll also eventually have crews out here replacing the bridge. So we don't want to see kids getting hurt. I can't stress that enough. We want to provide a safe space, but we also want to provide safe access. Montoya Roosevelt Middle School is behind us. The school has experienced congestion in the past with the drop-off and pickup times in the mornings. So we cannot stress enough to the parents to please adjust your schedule and be patient with us as we work through this together. But it's for the safety of everyone. Now, we have been in talks with Albuquerque Public Schools, and we're hoping that they can provide us with the bus stop, or as a bus stop. That is our goal, to help minimize the amount of traffic that is accessing the schools. In the meantime, for all the parents who are enrolled in our before and after school program, we will provide shuttling to and from the schools. Our main concern here is that we know that this is a centralized hub for the residents of the East Mountains, and we need folks to understand that you cannot drop your kids off and just expect them to cross the creek. We're in the monsoon seasons. That worries us, so please work with us and be patient. There's going to have to be some adjustments, and it may be inconvenient, but otherwise, we're still here for the community, and we will offer the same quality programs that we have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director. And I want to conclude here by saying that despite this extraordinary storm, again, I'm grateful that no one was injured or killed in this event. And all things considered, I think we all recognize that things could have been significantly worse. And I want to give a lot of credit to our hardworking public servants across the county, the village, who are working to strengthen our infrastructure, to clean up after this flood, and to really make our community more resilient going forward. I want to mention that we're all in this together here, right? This impact of climate change is increasing. We're seeing more and more of these extreme storm events, and we have to come together as a community, not only to be more resilient and more adaptive to what's happening, but also to change our world for future generations, right? We have to confront this problem on multiple fronts, and at the end of the day, it's not about pointing blame, it's about finding solutions and about moving forward together. So I want to mention we still have a lot of culverts upstream in particular that are blocked. We have conditions in the arroyo that still require significant improvements upstream in particular. And so it's important that those features are cleaned out and maintained so that future storm events that can come at any time don't have a more significant impact than this one. And so the village is looking for volunteers to help them clean those culverts out. So I want to put the word out to reach out to the village if anyone is available or interested in helping. And I also want to stress the importance of collaboration between all the entities that abut this arroyo, right? We have the state of New Mexico, DOT, we have the county, we have the land grant, we have the city of Albuquerque, we have private homeowners, we have the village of Tijeras. And at the end of the day, this is a piece of infrastructure that we really have to keep an interest in. We saw how devastating this could have been. And so I think it's really important that we join together as mutually interested parties to work towards a long-term solution here to maintain this creek. This is a natural feature, but it's also a piece of infrastructure. And so we've got to come together and find solutions here in the East Mountains to protect our communities. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for being here and open it up to any questions for any of the folks behind me.
Can you just clarify how big of an impact this is? What was the main purpose of the bridge? Was it to get across from the community center to school, or give us some stats of how many people were affected by this?
Yeah, sure.
I'll let Director Dixon take that one.
That's a good question. The community center has been here since 1977. The bridge behind us has been used as a vital connection for kids to cross safely after school and vice versa. Typically in the mornings, we run a before school program of about 30 kids. Outside of the kids registered in our program, we also see anywhere from about 50 to 100 students that are dropped off from families. Because of the congestion and the way that the school was designed, it makes it very difficult for parents to, drop off their kids there without, taking 15 to 20 minutes into their time. So a lot of times this will be used as an access point. But on any given day in the mornings, we're looking at about 100 kids that will utilize this. After school, we can see that number double.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Yes.
You mentioned that construction was going to be finished in the fall. Can you clarify what that construction is doing?
Sure. So we're excited about this project. This was brought to us by Chair Olivas here. This is the first enhancement that this center has seen in years. So right here behind us, we went from a modular skate park to a concrete permanent skate park. You're going to see a multi-sport court. You're going to see a lot of natural features. You're going to see other amenities as a stage. So we're really excited about this for the community and the residents. Yes, ma'am.
How far away until the bridge is going to be complete? I know, ma'am, you had said it was about 80 to 90% complete. Did we know when that was going to be finished?
Yes, thank you. Yes, so the construction project for the watershed restoration project, which is separate from the bridge and the replacement of that bridge or fixing the bridge, the watershed restoration project, we were about 80-90% complete, and we had anticipated we had about 2 or 3 weeks worth of work left. Our engineers are currently, they've come out, they've looked at it. I'm happy to say that in their analysis, they saw nothing that we needed to do immediately in preparation for more rain. So the site is relatively stable, although it has had some damage. Our engineers are working to assess the damage and what we need. So I don't know yet how much longer we will be in construction. We're hoping that we'll be finished at least by the end of this year. But again, we're still looking at the data, looking at the damage and seeing what needs to be done to fix it.
And can you just clarify that project was to prevent flooding in houses and stuff, or?
So yes, this was a watershed restoration project. The purpose of the project was to fix the Tijeras Arroyo through much of the area up here has become what we call incised, which makes it deeper and narrower. That makes the velocity of the water move much faster. The purpose of this project here was to slow the water down, to create sort of a long path for the water. It was originally just sort of shooting straight through. So the purpose was to create a longer path, which slows the water down, which encourages the water to seep into the ground, and that protects downstream users. That will help improve water quality downstream.
It was also mentioned that we could possibly see reconstruction within a year. Are you guys afraid that if we have another event like this, that the whole bridge will collapse or something?
Well, at this point, the bridge is closed, and we're doing evaluations to see if it can be salvaged, although it's not looking like that's going to be the case. And so if there are future storm events, it will have some impacts, but it's ultimately not going to drastically change what the end goal of likely replacing this bridge is going to cause, just due to the current status of the bridge.
Was this damage just kind of like a needed push to get repairs on? How old was this bridge?
So I've been trying to determine what the actual date of the bridge is, and I don't have that available now. What we do know is that the bridge was inspected previously and that it didn't show deficiencies that required it to be improved or replaced. Now with the storm event, that it did cause a lot of damage, which is going to change that assessment.
What kind of damage was done to the bridge?
That's still being evaluated visually. The footings that support some of the support piers are completely gone. Some of the main structures are bent, and there are numerous cracks at a lot of the connection points now. But those are just visual inspections, and we're waiting for the full evaluations to come back.
I believe this is a question for Ms. Bronson, but I had read that that watershed restoration project was supposed to be completed in June. If that's true, what was the reason for the delay?
Hi, thank you. Yeah, for any of you who are familiar with construction projects, things come up frequently. So, for example, there was a Village of Tijeras water line that runs through the project that we were not aware of. We always get utilities marked before we start construction. That one was not marked in the location where it actually exists. That caused us to have to stop work for a while, come up with a plan to make sure we protected that water line from freezing over the winter and from any impacts from flooding. And I'm happy to say that the protection that we put in place for that water line worked really well, and there were no impacts to it at all. So delays like that can happen when we have rain events, and we've had more rain events this spring. That causes work to stop, especially for a project like this. When the soil gets wet and you have heavy equipment on it, it really compacts it, and we need to avoid that compaction and damage. So we have to stop work for a few days and let the site dry out before we can continue. So there are various things, not one issue, but various things can happen that can delay construction. Yep.
And then just to clarify, it could be upwards of a year before construction on the bridge can even begin. Is that
Correct. This is going to be a process. We have to actually get an evaluation done on the existing bridge just to even determine the best way to demo it, because we want to make sure it's done in a safe manner. During that time, we are also going to be looking to bring on a consultant to get the design of the bridge done. That takes some time. And then ultimately, when we get to the point where we're ready to bid the project, like I was kind of mentioning when I was speaking previously, there's very limited manufacturers that construct these pedestrian bridges. And right now, when based on preliminary discussions, the wait time is about a year. And so that's once you have a contractor on board and the submittal has been reviewed and approved and the order is placed, it takes about a year. So we're trying to have the construction process in place in a year, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the bridge would be in place during that time frame.
Just to clarify that part too, it's going to be a totally new bridge, right?
We're still evaluating, but more than likely, yes. Yes.
I just wanted to emphasize here to tie all that together that the project behind us here, the watershed restoration, I really think is a model for what needs to happen across the creek, across the corridor, right? Because we've seen this infrastructure really not maintained for generations here, right? Going back decades. And so the county's made this investment in this one section, but we've got to work with the partners, as I was saying, to make sure that we can protect the whole watershed to the greatest extent possible. And at the same time, we now have this issue with the bridge. And I think that what we heard from the director, from everyone, is that we want to make sure that this bridge, whether it's this bridge or a new bridge, is replaced by something that is more resilient and ready for the next one of these floods, or one that's even worse. And so it's important that we highlight that the county stepped up with this restoration project. I think we want to see that continue throughout the corridor, because the more of this we have, right, the more we can slow down those floodwaters, and the more we can actually protect life and property if we don't have those high velocity, high flow events that are really devastating to communities when they get out of hand. So I just wanted to highlight that. So, all right. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate you being here.